Good morning, GMT fans. Thought I'd make a little video of tank duel enemy in the crosshairs. Just one tank activation during one turn. Kind of show you a little bit how some of the mechanics work, mainly shooting at other tanks. The situation is I'm playing a scenario um, with 6 tanks, 3 Russian, 3 German, playing with the big boys. We've got a KV-85, a T-34-85, and an SU-100 against a Ferdinand, a Tiger, and a Panther. The scenario I'm playing is hold the high ground. So what that means is in this scenario, there is high ground on each side of the battlefield at about 400 meters, which means during the way we calculate range in this game is we have between 0 and 1,000 range track here. It's an imaginary line down the center of the battlefield, and you are either one of these distances from that center line on your side of the battlefield or your opponent's. So if you're on your side of the battlefield, and we'll look at this tank right here, this T-34-85, his range is on the 1,000. So he's 1,000 from the center, and let's say this Tiger, we're looking at him, he's 600. So you just add the two together, so that T-34 is 1,600 meters from this Tiger. And, different, the Ferdinand's a little bit further away, so 18 to him. So that's how you calculate range in this. When a tank enters the 400 box, he has the opportunity in this scenario to go up on the high ground. And you're trying to hold this high ground, to be the last side with tanks on the high ground at the end of the scenario. You get a extra scenario victory points if you're the only side that is holding the high ground at the end. And as of right now, this Panther is on the high ground because his range is at 400, and he's on a hill where it says hill and woods. He's on the hill, which means he's on the high ground. He's also in woods on that hill for a little bit of cover. So he is where he, is getting him some victory points. The other two are not, and none of the Russians are on the high ground. This Russian tank, KV-85, just got taken out by the Ferdinand. That's why his range is above the 1,000. He is not in this turn. He will re-enter as a reinforcement in the next turn. So you're never out of the game. If you're playing this with like 6 people and one guy gets knocked out during a turn, he's going to come back right next turn as a reinforcement. It's a big battle. There's a lot of tanks in this. You're just representing a portion of it at a time. That way, no one walks away from the table because they're not playing. Everybody plays the entire time. So I'm going to go over this turn. A lot of these tanks, like I said, this one got taken out. This Panther has already taken his turn because he doesn't have a card over here in the initiative card. Now this Tiger has an initiative card of 71 in his, so that means he is not taking his turn, and it goes from low to high. So people will play an initiative card secretly. Everybody reveals them at the same time, and you're bidding for the initiative to go first or last. Sometimes you want to go first, sometimes you want to go last. So he is a 71. The Ferdinand's already gone. 99 for the, and this is one of the reasons why I want to go last, because he's way far away. He's got to get closer and move. So he's not spotted at the time. These are spotting markers in here. Nobody has him spotted, and nobody has tank number 1 spotted. So he wants to stay hidden. So he wants to go late in the turn. And hopefully nobody will spot him in between. We'll see what happens. So he won't be taken until the very end. The next one is here, 51. So this SU-100, it's his turn. So the first thing that he does is he discards this initiative card, and he takes his turn. So what he's going to do during this turn is he's going to fire. He's got tank number 1 spotted and tank number 3 spotted. So he could fire at either one of those, not number 2. This is number 3, the Fertiland, which is a real tough thing to penetrate unless you're on the side of it. And he does not have him flanked, so it'd be a front shot. He can't shoot number 2 because he doesn't see him, but he can see number 1. Right here is his identification flag. And so he's going to take a shot at this Panther. He's on the hill, so he needs to get him off of that hill. So it's a juicy target for him. So let's see what happens. First thing he's going to do is he needs to play from his hand of cards. This game is card driven, so he's got a hand of cards that he can use. Most of these cards are just single use, except this Mud number 17. Let me pull this up so you can see it better. That's not going to do it. This will do it. So you can see that it's a split card. It has, on the top, it's mud. It's a terrain. It's natural terrain. You throw that on an opponent when he's moving. So they find mud, and it's not good for them. You never want to use mud on yourself. You'd want to use it on your opponent. But the bottom half of this card, because it's a split card, is a fire 2. So that's the only fire card that the Soviet SU-100 has. This is a move, flank, woods. Now he could possibly move, flank, because he's got somebody spotted, and woods. But the problem is this is a flank 8. So you have to do some stuff to be able to use this card. So he's not going to flank, he's just going to take a shot. So he's going to play this card as a fire action. Now, he could add leadership to this fire action, but he doesn't have a leadership card, so he can't in this instance. So it's just a simple fire 2, as you can see here, fire 2. So what he's going to do, the first thing that happens is the Panther can now, if he's got a tactics card, he could play it at this time. And a tactics card would mean that he's doing stuff to try to be tougher to hit. And he does not have a tactics card at this time. And that would minus 20 off the guy's of the SU-100 shot. And if the SU-100 had a tactics, he could play it to cancel the other tactics. This could go back and forth until someone runs out or doesn't want to play any more tactics. But there's not that many in the game. There's only 6 cards in a 100 deck. So they're very valuable. So there's nothing to play against it, so let's figure out how this works. So he's going to take a shot. Over here on the right bottom side is a chart that we use for the range, the 2-hit, the penetration, and if they're firing any APCR. And I'll blow it up so you can see it even bigger. That's the Panther. Here's the SU-100. His range to his opponent, his 2-hit, he needs to pull that number from the battle deck or lower. This is his penetration. If he does hit, we compare that to the armor factor of the defending tank. And then if he fired an APCR round, it would get added. There's no APCR rounds for those SU-100, so they don't apply for this tank. But if you look at like a 75 millimeter German Panzer, they've got APCR. If they've got it available and loaded into the breach, they can add that to the penetration. So that's how that works. So going back to the SU-100, we know we got to figure out their range. I'm going to tell you what it is, but I'm going to show you how it works in a second. I know right now it's at 1,000, so he needs 78 to hit. Now, how do I know it's 1,000? Because this SU-100 is at 600, and the Panther is at 400. 400, 600 is 1,000. So he needs to pull a 78 or less to be able to hit this guy. But there's some more modifiers that we got to figure out. Does his fire card help him at all or hurt him? The fire 2, you'll notice at the bottom it says +5 to hit. That would put it up to 83. So now he needs 83 or less to hit. Now we look at the tank that he's firing at. His size is a +5. So now it went from 83 to 88 to hit. Now we're going to start subtracting from that number for defensive stuff. And the only defensive thing he has right now is the woods. And you can see it's a cover of 10. Subtract 10 from 88, 78. That is the final number he needs to achieve a hit, a 78. So we pull a battle card. We look at the number at the top left or bottom right. It's a 1. Well, that's definitely lower than a 78. So it is a hit. So now we have to determine where the shell actually hit. If he had played 2 fire cards, he could call his location, excluding tracks, where he'd like to hit turret or hull, or superstructure in the case of a tank destroyer. But for ease, we just call it turret and hull. So he'd be able to call it, but since he's only played 1, it's random. We don't know where it's going to hit. We got to pull another battle card, and we need to look at the little exponent number 40. You see the 0 is in white down there at the bottom right-hand corner, and it has a little target number. So that's our target number that we need to look at, and it's anytime you need a random number between 0 and 9, you look at that number. So he hit him in the 0. Where's the 0? We can look at this chart again, and it's a panther. And we look down here for hit location 0, he hit him in the tracks. If he would have went 1 through 5, it would have been a hull. 6 through 9 would have been a turret. And the armor factor in the front is 1, 13, 13. So he didn't hit where he'd hoped. He just hit him in the tracks, which is not great because he wants to kill him. So it's a track hit, and his armor value is 1. Well, we need to pull another card to see if it penetrates that armor value, which in this case is not going to be a problem. An SU 100 penetration at 1,000 is 17. There's only one way that he's not going to do any damage, is if he gets an auto bounce. And there's only a 5% chance of that. There's always a 5% chance that no matter how great your shot is, it's going to bounce. Or you could even say, partially hit and ricochet. It's a bounce. Or no matter how terrible the shot is, it's going to go through. It's an auto penetration. Hit an open hatch, something fluky. So there's a 5% chance that it could go either way, auto bounce or auto penetrate. So let's see. Pull another card. And we're looking at the number on the right-hand side that says pen mod. We would add +2 to that 17, which makes it a 19. Which is way higher than the 1 armor, so it definitely penetrated. Now, in a normal shot against a hull or a turret, you would be concerned with the color of that penetration mod number. If the penetration mod number is in black like it is, it's light damage. If it's in red, it's heavy damage. Now that only applies to tanks that are below 85 millimeters in size. Anything 85 millimeters or larger in size is automatic heavy damage. So in this case, it would be automatic heavy damage because he's getting shot with a 100 millimeter SU 100. So it penetrated, and now we just got to look for damage. We pull a damage card, and the first thing that we're looking for is the critical number versus the number on this card. So what was the target number on this card? It's a 7. down there in the right bottom right hand corner. Compare it to the critical hit number up on top of 8. If those two numbers would have been the same, we would forget the track damage and you would automatically go to critical hit damage. If it would have been a hull or turret hit, we would not do that either. We'd go straight to the critical part of the card and do that. But 7 and 8 are not the same. So we look at the very bottom where it says track, light or heavy damage. Well, we know it's heavy in this case. Damaged, 1/2 move level, and it says fire in all lowercase. That means we have to check to see if the tank caught on fire from this shot. So there's a chance that some fluky thing happened and the tank actually caught on fire, knocked the tracks, damaged the tracks, and did a little penetration enough to catch the tank on fire. At this point, it's not a huge fire, but it could go out of control and later turns. Molly, thank you for the encouragement, but that's enough. That's my boxer Molly. So we're looking at that. So it says light damage, half movement. So what that means is his movement level right now is a 8. So his movement level is a 7. So it would go down to 3.5, round up to 4. So that means he can only use, if the tracks are damaged, he can't use as many cards to move, which is not, the end of the world for him. It's not that bad yet. So now we have to check for the fire and see if there's actually a possibility of fire. This card, because the fire is in lowercase, that means we check for a fire. If it was all uppercase letters, it would be an automatic fire. So we do it by pulling another battle card. We look at the icons in the right below the picture. The far left one is explosion. The next one is fire, which is nothing there, which means it did not catch on fire. The next one is a spot. You use it to spot people. And then you're also going to have an extinguisher and smoke. So we pulled one. It didn't catch on fire. So it just did superficial damage to the tracks. The Panther got extremely lucky on this shot. The last thing to do during the fire resolution is that the SU-100 has the opportunity to acquire that Panther because he's honing in his shot to get a even better shot. If he does that, he'll lose spot on tank number 3 because he's completely focused in on what's going on with the Panther. And he doesn't have to. He can stay where he is and have them both and keeping track on both of them. But I think he's going to drop this on number 3 and acquire tank number 1, which gives him another plus 10 to hit. So that's going to help him next turn if he fires at him again. So that takes care of everything. Now, if something would have happened to this Panther, let's say it would have penetrated the hull, and then guys could be dying or wounded. The thing could catch on fire. It could be a catastrophic kill. The whole thing just brews up and everybody's gone. It could explode, and if it explodes, you have the opportunity to try to get out of the tank, and then you're going to roll for crew survival. They're going to each member is going to try to get out of the tank, because I will zoom in here because victory points in this game is down here at the bottom. So victory points for this Panther, the vehicle is worth 6. The commander is worth 7. The gunner's worth 4. And each other crew member is worth 2. So you can see that the crew is way more important than the machine. If you build another machine, getting quality crew becomes a problem in the war. So you're very invested in your crew and if they survive or not. So if it was an explosion, you would individually check to see if they survived by pulling battle cards and look at those icons on top and comparing them and finding out if your crew survives or not. So in the vassal module, we just hit one, discard cards to clean everything up, and we are done with that turn. And then it kind of gives you a little bit bigger, broader look at what's going on. There's only two more tanks that have a turn to take in this turn. This game was about to end. With six tanks, it's four decks. Optionally, you can play a shorter game by removing a deck, or playing a longer game by adding a deck. But I played a standard four deck game. The deck that I'm in is the there's only one deck left, so I'm on the third deck. There's only 22 cards left, so somewhere in there there's a shuffle. When it comes out, we make the last deck, and it's simple. In this, we hit the battle card interface. It says right here we have one deck left, right here, and we'll prepare it by just right-clicking on it, prepare it. It'll put this end card game, and that end card could be anywhere within that final deck. So you have no idea when it's going to end. So everybody is in panic mode now to try to get as many victory points here at the end as they can. If you're the last tank, if you're the last side that has a tank on the hill, in this scenario, it's a plus 10 victory points. Right now, the Germans have a slight 7-point lead in this game. So who knows? It's a close one. We'll see how it turns out. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it very much.